I'm Chad Daniel. Welcome to Youth Bites. When you address the topic of suicide, there's only a logical place that you can go to begin this conversation, and that's Tokyo, Japan. Now, being in Japan can be a really tricky place. Trying to put my finger on the motivation behind suicide, it's totally elusive. You've got all the cultural etiquette, the unwillingness of people to talk about this. It creates walls that are so hard to overcome. Remember, this is a culture that's rooted in honor, reputation, and shame. Now, despite these factors, suicide still has to be discussed. When you consider the amount of people that take their life in this country, officially 35,000 people a year, which is a terrifyingly huge number. But when you consider that the unofficial number here in Japan, it's more than double. 80,000 people take their life every year unofficially.
I think one of them is like pressure from the society. Like, for example, like, oh, you need to go to a good high school or good university to get good jobs. And that's kind of a big pressure on the people. So
Right.
that's like when it comes too much, people think about like suicide or like too stressed out.
I think one of the biggest problems for the Japanese teenagers is that they get bullied in the school. But that is not just something new, but in Japanese histories, the discrimination is always happened. It was there, and that actually happens in the school. In the schools, like so many young Japanese guys got pressured. It's like, you need to do this, you gotta do this to please the family, or when they have a stress, they just like to pick on someone that they can just bully and release the stress.
There is, however, a generation in Japan that desires to break out of the cycle of shame, indifference, and apathy. Some of these can be found at Jesus Lifehouse Church, pastored by Rod Plummer. Here we can find those who are working to bring life, hope, and a future to the most vulnerable in Japanese society.
God sent us here with a vision.
神様は私たちにビジョンを与えてこの教会を立てるように
To
言わ
come
れ
and
ま
reach the young people of Tokyo.
した。東京の若者を勝ち取っていけっていうビジョン
And
で
then the young people of Osaka.
す。そして大阪もそうですけど。
And then the young people of other cities in Japan.
そして日本のそれぞれの都市の
It was obvious that I needed a complete different understanding of the dynamics of Japanese culture. So I took some time to speak with Pastor Rod one-on-one.
I think we're dealing with a new generation here. So our message is that Jesus loves you. He has a plan for you. You're
Great.
special. Come into our community and find acceptance all the time.
Incredible.
And find that Jesus will release you from shame.
Pastor Rod then went on to explain the 4 biggest causes of suicide in Japan. A breakdown of family, a lack of personal value and self-worth, isolation, and a lack of real community. These 4 factors grind at the hearts of young and old alike, prompting some to do the unspeakable. It was at Rod's church in Tokyo that we met up with Kirby and Miwa, 2 young people who have an incredible story of hope, especially as it relates to these difficult topics.
Miwa's a beautiful Christian girl. She's come back here as an adult to be part of the answer here in Japan, which is cool. You know, because she could have lived in America, wants to come back. She met Kirby in our church this last year. He came to Christ about 1 year ago. He was in the criminal system. They just got married 2 weeks ago. This is Miwa, the beautiful young American Japanese girl,
sure.
and Kirby.
Just 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. He wants to be a pastor. He wants to make a difference in his nation. Coming from that background, getting saved and healed, he wants to make a difference, and it's really exciting.
Ah, 自分が小さい頃にお父さんとお母さんが離婚して
So when I was little, my parents got divorced.
で自分はそれによって日本に来ました。
And because of that, I came to Japan. And so the reason why my parents got divorced is because my father was an alcoholic and a drug addict.
だから小さい頃のもう思い出は一切持ってない。
So actually, I don't have any childhood memories when I was really little.
で自分はそれによってもうお父さんも2人の連れ子で自分らも2人の連れ子で結婚して4人兄弟になった。
And so my mom got married to a man who had 2 children already. So 2 plus 2, so there were 4 children under the house.
でも家の中ではすごくルールが多くて自分が9時までに必ず寝てないと父さんからの虐待を受けたり。
And so I actually had a lot of strict rules in my house. So if I wasn't falling asleep by 9 o'clock at night, I was abused physically.
それが自分はもう愛がお父さんからもらえない悲しくてお母さんに求めた。
And so I didn't receive love from my father, so I was always seeking love from my mother.
でもお母さんがいつも言うのはもう本当にお金が必要だから今だけ我慢してって。
But what my mom would say is that, you know what, we don't have money now, so please just try to live it out and not just hold it in.
だからもうその時に自分が思い知ったのがもう自分が話せるところ自分が本当に癒されるところが本当になかった。
And then I realized at a young age that I didn't have a place where I can really release my feelings or share my feelings or do anything with what I was going through because of this situation.
I think we're dealing with a new generation here, and the previous generation was the one that built the wealth, but the family was a very low place, and I think the new generation has grown up with a lot of affluence and education, but not much family connection. So there's loneliness, there's a sense of who am I, a sense of never being encouraged, and they're very open to other influences at that point.
Why do you think young people in Japan in general, focus on suicide as an option for life?
You know, I think that teens feel like they don't really have a shot in life anymore. So they end up feeling hopeless, like there's nothing else to hold on to.
Here in Japan, we're coming across young Japanese that really are not connected to their parents at all. It's like they're forming a new generation, a new way of acting and behaving and thinking together.
I think that Japanese people, they don't like to open up. They don't like to tell their friends, their family, their neighbors what's going on, you know, or even what's on their mind. You know, I think what they try to do is they can't really share their hearts.
The earliest suicide books in the world were written here in Japan in the 12th century or something. I'm not sure, but there's thousands of volumes through the years of suicide, and of course the whole harikiri thing. That there's honor in an honorable death.
Be being in Japan kind of makes me get all nostalgic and stuff. I see all these, tributes to ancestors and how people really venerate their parents and their grandparents. And it made me think about my parents, my grandparents, more importantly, my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents. And now legend has it in my family tree that there is a little bit of Asian blood in me. So I did some looking and I found out that my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, Hattori Hanzo Danielson, was actually Japanese. No, I'm serious, he really was. I can track it back. And if you really begin to look, I do kind of look Japanese. I do. Welcome to my home, Japan, mystical land of ninjas, samurai, and everything that's good to eat. In my country, we train children from the time they are little to defend themselves, their bodies, their name, their families. Swords, shuriken stars, blowguns, bows and arrows, tools. We train them to defend their very lives. But there's something I've noticed about we Japanese. Even though we give our kids all of these cool toys and they can slice anyone into quivering bloody sushi, there's one thing we haven't figured out: how to protect their heart and their mind. This culture can really get to you. So much violence, so much isolation, such a hard work ethic. It's no wonder our kids are leaving us prematurely every year. If only I could find something that could protect the mind, the heart, and the soul that was as deadly as my sword.
で自分は家族を愛してるから自分の中で我慢しようってその思いがあっても虐待されても自分の中でいつも収めてた。
And so I really wanted to live a happy life, and I loved my family, but yet it was really hard because I had all these things I was carrying inside.
でもそれのおかげで次は家族からまた自分はのけ者にされてきた。
But then because of that, then I was kind of set apart from my family again.
でそれによって自分が行き場所がなくて本当に家も自分にとってホームなのにホームじゃないように感じがして。
And then I started to feel as though, my house is my home, but then yet it didn't become my home anymore because I didn't feel like I belonged there anymore.
もうだから俺はもうどこに行こうってもう本当に空見ながらもう空に行けたらなとか思ったり。
So I would, look up at the sky and wish that I could just go up there.
だから本当にどっかに川とか本当に誰もいないところに行って。
And I would go to places like rivers or anywhere where I was alone.
で俺はなんで生まれてきたんだろう。
And I would always be thinking, why was I born?
で俺はこの家族に必要なのかな。
Am I needed in this family?
で俺は本当にどこに行ったら自分が愛がもらえるとこがあるんだろう。
So where can I go where I can receive love?
俺はもうそれが一切分からなくて。
So I couldn't understand where at all.
本当にどこに行ってもその愛のない世界がしかない。
So wherever I went, I couldn't receive love anywhere.
Here in Japan, vestiges of her ancient past are still alive. Behind me is a Studio Kokoro where a woman can come in and for about $100 you can experience what it was like to be a geisha. They'll put you in the outfit, they'll put you in the makeup, they'll take pictures with you, and you can experience what it was like to be one of these high-class women hundreds of years ago. Now, the idea of paying for companionship, it's still alive and well in Japan today. The desire to take care of someone and to be loved in return is something that most people are willing to take to extreme measures to acquire. A typical host can make up to $100,000 a year. An extraordinary host, $300,000. can see the deficit in people's heart being manifested all over. Just like the geishas were able to fulfill that void in people's life hundreds of years ago, so the host clubs are doing it today. This is a huge red flag to me that shows me that the same way people's hearts were 1,000 years ago, they haven't changed much, even in the 21st century. There's still such a vacuum. And as a result, they then farm it out to begin to look for people and even spend thousands of dollars to have a little bit of comfort, a little bit of security, and have somebody tell them how valuable they are.
Like there is a huge vacuum in this culture for attention, for affection, for real caring, for just basic human interaction. And the hosts and the host clubs, they fill that void in people's hearts.
The same way it is here, it's in the West, it's in every culture you go to. People are desperately looking to be part of community, looking to be loved, and looking to be brought into something that's going to fill that void in their heart. Regardless of where a person looks, and regardless of how much a person has financially, emotionally, sexually, you name it, they're never going to find what they need unless they first go to the source of all life, and that's God. Life of a samurai, it's not what you think it is. I get up in the morning, sharpen my sword, pray, drink, kill, drink some more, then kill somebody else. Kind of grinds on a person after a while. What I really hate about this job is the pressure. The pressure. It literally makes me want to kill myself. But I don't have to do that just because of pressure. I've got to do it when I fail my master. If an enemy overruns the village and I was in charge of protecting it, they come in, I die. I lose face with someone, I lose a sword battle, I die. My pants rip in public, I die. And this is how we die. Long sword, fighting only. Short sword, can do a lot of things with it. Cut potatoes as well. This is the sword of my demise. Hari Kare. Seppuku. The sword is taken. It is then thrust in the abdomen and twist it like that. And then you pull to the right. And then if you can, if you're still conscious, you pull to the left. Well, if I had a real sword, it would be a real problem. But that's how they did it. And I would have a hired servant around who'd take the long sword and strike my head off so I wouldn't suffer too much. Throughout this country, the value of a man's life has always been based on what he is able to add to society. As it was with the samurai hundreds of years ago, this concept is still alive and well in Japanese culture. Kirby explains how this fact directly affected him and his brother when they were children.
So every night, my older brother and I would talk about when we're gonna die, when are we gonna get killed by our father.
もうそれが全部怖くなってどこに行っても怖いものしかなくて
And so wherever we went, I felt like there were only scary things.
もうだからそれから逃げたくなって
And I wanted to run away from it.
だから橋にお兄ちゃんと一緒に行って
And so I actually went to a bridge with my brother.
で自分たちがあったその最悪な話ばっかりして
And then we were talking about all the bad things that we were going through.
で自分たちがどんだけ本当に未熟なものかっていうばっかり話で
And we were talking about how bad and how like worse of a situation we were in.
だからもう橋でもうここへ飛び降りたら全て終わるねって
And we were talking about if we jump here, then everything would end. But, looking around, no one would be worried about us. And then, people not worrying about us made us even sadder.
だから本当にもういつもどこに行ってもそう飛び降りるのをやめても自分たちは本当にもう嫌だなっていうフィーリングしか自分の中になかった。
And so in our hearts we were thinking, okay, so no matter where we go, if we were to jump or not, it wouldn't matter, and like, okay, that's the end.
でそれでいつも考えるのは自分は何の価値があるんだろう。
And I would always be thinking, okay, what's the value of my life?
What is the value of your life? No, really, what does it weigh in? I mean, is it based on what you can see or what you can feel? Or is it based on something more eternal, invisible, something that you or I are not qualified to assess? Now, from the beginning of our studies on suicide, this one topic, this subject kept coming up. What is the value of your life? All you have to do is look around you and you'll see how much value we all place on things that have no eternal worth whatsoever. Take, for example, a fish market here in Tokyo. Even in this wild place, you'll be able to see how out of balance the things we place value on have really become. This is one of the most happening places from about 4 a.m. till noon that you'll ever find. And what's fascinating about this place is that one of the most expensive fish in the world was sold just right over here. Now, number one, the highest grossing fish ever purchased here was a 444-pound bluefin tuna. It went for $173,000. That's about $390 per pound. Now, that fish was bought, it was sent out, it was cut, and it was shipped across the street to some of the most famous sushi restaurants here in Japan. Now, you've wondered why a tuna would go for $173,000? Well, the answer is right here on this little strip. These are some of the most famous sushi restaurants in the district, and people wait here for hours to have a taste of that massively expensive tuna. When you look at the way that your life is valued and the way it's measured, God gives us one set of scales, but the world gives us another set of scales. Your value is only this if you weigh this much, or if you look this way, your value is greater, or whatever you can add to the system as a whole, that's what somehow gives your life value. It's a completely uneven scale. When you take your life and put it in a scale and then put the world, the planet, the universe next to it, your soul always weighs more because a greater price was paid for who you are. And for us to somehow devalue our lives by weighing our value on a flawed scale is always going to put us on the short end of the stick. Well, the system that we find ourselves in really harps on about three categories of our life. First, our value and worth is based on the things that we own. And the other category comes into what our family does, what our family has, what our name represents. You know, are we blue collar, are we white collar? And the third part of that comes into our education. You know, whether you have a college degree, a high school degree, whether you were homeschooled, it really, all of these things begin to just grind on you. And you begin to think that your value is somehow tied up in these three categories. So as the world begins to push you and says you're of no value, nobody cares about you. But when you begin to take it and flip it and look in the supernatural, in the invisible realms, realize those are the things that matter most, that you are important. You are of great value. And regardless of the circumstances you come out of, and maybe even the problems, self-imposed problems you find yourself in now, God's able to get you out of every one of them. He judges you through eyes of love, saying, even though you may find yourself in a place to where nobody cares, don't forget about me. I care for you, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get you to a place to where health and community can surround you and bring you back into a place of life.
Wherever I went, I couldn't receive love anywhere.
でも自分は東京に来て、
But then I came to Tokyo,
でそこで教会を知った。
and then I went to church.
もう全て言ってるものが自分がもらえてなかったもの。
And everything they were talking about at church was something that I wanted and I haven't received, but I could get it.
もう本当にそこで自分はそれが一番欲しいと思った。
And I realized this is what I want. This is the ultimate thing I want.
でそれを受け入れた瞬間にもう本当に周りからの兄弟が増えて。
And so as I received that into my life, then I received so many more family members.
でそれによって自分は本当に今は愛を感じれて。
And now I feel loved.
で自分の家族に愛をもらわなくても自分が愛をあげることを知った。
And so I understood that even though I might not be able to receive love from my family members, I'm able to give love.
This reoccurring theme of community is common in every culture. Unfortunately, it has lost the weight and importance it once held in Japanese society. As we see in Kirby's story, his coming to Tokyo and finding community at Jesus Lifehouse Church was instrumental in changing his outlook on life.
People often ask us, what's the key? And we have a very non-spiritual answer. We just meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
Our answer is we meet a lot of people. We've probably met 20 to 30,000 young Japanese in 8 years. But as we've done that, we've discovered that they're warm, they're nice, they're desperate, and they're wanting friendship and belonging. This whole thing of belonging and no shame.
Yeah.
So our message is that come into our community and find acceptance all the time.
Incredible.
What would you tell maybe a friend of yours who's thinking about suicide?
I just want to tell them about this church, you know. There's so many people who can help. And that's our voice as well.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to die. We will accept you. But before you commit suicide, let them know. Let us know, you know. We'll be there for them. We will.
So I really started to understand the truth behind how we love people and how we can give love and show love.
で本当の愛がこの世の中にあるっていうことを思い知らされた。
And then I finally understood that true love does exist.
でそれによって自分はその愛をみんなに知ってほしい。
And I want everyone to know that true love that I understood.
この世の中には愛のない世界があるように見えて本当は愛がある。
And so this world looks like it's lacking love, but actually there is love around you.
みんなもそれを本当に見つけてみてください。
So I want you to try that too. Look for true love.
ありがとう。
Thank you.